So the other day I took to YouTube and Discord asking for your guys' hot takes and unpopular opinions about ARK. Starting out, ASA was the unwanted middle child between ASE and ARK 2. ASA is better than ASE. ASE is better than ASA. ASA isn't even that bad. These are all legitimate comments I got from different people. ASA is hotly contested right now, as indicated by the absolute insane amount of comments I received in regards to it. Rowan Fox 77 says ASA is the best version of ARK. It has the best graphics, more dinosaurs, is cheaper, and in my experience, less laggy. My Xbox X runs it really well, and my $1,200 PC can run it well if it's not on max graphics. In fact, it runs better than ASE for some reason. There are also less bugs in ASA compared to ASE in my own experience. Not to mention, you don't have to buy every DLC separately. Now, I've come a long way on ASA. I used to be adamantly against it, but I can't say I feel as strongly anymore. At the time that ASA came out, there was so much happening, and nobody could reach a consensus on how to feel about it. We all remember watching those scathing Buzz Lightyear videos on the subject. Feel free to comment if you feel differently, but these are my succinct hindsight feelings in regards to ASA. Wildcard and Snail Games realized that ARK 2 was not nearly as developed as it should have been. So instead of gambling on a new game that could potentially flop, they chose to stick with something that they knew could sell. Trust me, I would know. They made a lot of missteps in regards to PR, and I can't say I agree with the decision to just revamp old maps instead of just making new ones, but the fact of the matter is that ASA exists. And it's here. And there honestly has been plenty of new content added to the game. So I think it may be time to start moving over to ASA. Again, I know it's a hotly debated topic right now, and I don't play PvP, so my perception might be skewed a bit, so feel free to discuss that in the comment section. From Jimmy Bob III 438, honestly, the delays aren't that bad anymore. You should just accept them at this point. And yes, I agree. Wildcard should certainly expect it at this point, and should potentially adjust the release date estimates as a result. As a completely unrelated aside, I can't wait for ARK 2 to come out in the beginning of 2025. Really stoked for that one. It's 4009 says, Extinction should have been the last DLC. Gen 1 is a buggy mess, and Gen 2 is just way too easy. And I can't help but agree with this. Now, while I do love the idea of being reunited with our hot Australian muscle mommy waifu, Extinction just feels like the natural end of the story. And please, this Ascension cutscene just absolutely moistens me. Cabo the Sandwich says, Ragnarok sucks as a map. The only thing it has is frost wyverns. Now, hear me out. I agree with this. I know, I'm a single player gooner with no friends. I'm well aware of this, but the fact that you need 10 artifacts to fight a boss on Rag is absolutely criminal. Can someone please explain to me why we're trying to raise the already insurmountably high requirements to fight a boss? I just don't get it. Surprisingly, I got a lot of comments defending Scorched Earth of all maps. My Poopsis says, Scorched Earth is not even that bad of a map. From 1298 Tomcat, Scorched Earth is not as bad as everyone says it is. It's not peak, but pretty close. Totally Tough Bay Fong, I actually like Scorched Earth, bite me. And the absolute mad lad Galleyman 575 says, while it has the least amount of content, Scorched Earth is the best DLC map? I'm sorry, we have officially strayed into the territory of nonsense. Scorched Earth is the turkey bacon of ARK story maps, completely devoid of that which sets apart all of the other DLC maps. The island is full of life, has the most content, and is completely nostalgic. Aberration slows down gameplay in a satisfying and uniquely challenging way, and Extinction by far has the best boss fights in the game. But Scorched Earth, if you're a lunatic and you like sand, 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 and more sand, then be my guest. Continue playing this terrible, terrible game. In this next section, let's talk about some comments I got about creatures. Hello, IZ8KH says, Dinosuchus equals most underrated dino in the game. Come on. We all know the most underrated creature in the game is the Spino, and the Sarco, and the Moss Shops, and the Iguanodon. Skizzy278 says, hot take, the majority of creatures are far more useful than some people realize. I would agree with this. A huge issue with ARK is that people pump their XP gain way up or just spam explorer notes in order to bum rush higher tier creatures, completely rushing past so much good content. Very few creatures have any kind of extended lifespan in the current meta, and I'll go a little bit more in depth with that later. DoritoChip19 says, hot take, tech Spinos belong in the game just as much as the others. I would tame tech Spinos all day. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. While we're at it, let's demand tech Dodos and tech Trikes. Please, I'm literally begging you. Terroraptor1 says, Capros are a good tame and can be a late game staple. Okay, this one is just objectively wrong, but slay, I guess. From Liquid Fox 4743, every map has an infestation of Carnos, the worst dinosaur of all. And while the Carno isn't phenomenal by any means, I think it gets a bad rap, simply from the ear-splitting footstep soundbite that it has. Luckily, this was fixed in ASA. Moving on, let's talk about gameplay. Moth-Flavored Jam says, not sure if this is a hot take or just an opinion, but ARK is straight up ass when you first start. Its complexity and lack of teaching you anything can very easily drive away new players and just cause unnecessary annoyance. And I would have to hard disagree on this one. My first 10 to 15 hours in ARK were probably the most fun I've ever had in a game. While yes, ARK's UI is absolutely terrible and unintuitive, and the default stats are literally unplayable, this has since been fixed in ASA. From CO Jones Mucho Grande, ARK is the most fun in a primitive setting. That means no fabricator and above stuff, especially tech. And especially without flying dinos and OP dinos like Tamed Giga, they take any danger out of the map. I would say this is less a fault of the game and more of the gameplay curve of ARK. Okay, hear me out. The x-axis is a point in the playthrough and the y-axis is the amount of shit you get to do. In the beginning of the playthrough, there's plenty of stuff to do. Taming harvesters, taming flyers, building base, then you'll go and hunt high-level creatures, but then after that, it's just breed until you get to the boss fight. Many people look at this and say, well, I might as well just do these 5 or 6 things, and that's what ARK is, and that's why it's justified to get to level 70 on day 1. I think the solution is not to say you can only use stuff under level 70 or you can only use stuff before level 40. I think we're forgetting that struggling through the lower levels is a massive part of the game. When was the last time you had to tame an Iguanodon? When was the last time you played without an overpowered stack mod? What's the fun in using a long neck rifle and trank darts to knock out a trike? Whenever I play for fun, I prefer to play what I call the tame ladder, where the player is restricted from leveling up until they have tamed the creature whose saddle is unlocked at the level that you're at. So for example, the Parasaur saddle unlocks at level 9. You can't go to level 10 until you've tamed a Parasaur. ARK has all this progression here just begging to be played, but people are in such a rush to breeze past it all that they don't realize what's standing in front of them the whole time. And in reality, it turns out the real ARKs were the friends we made along the way. Next is the plethora of comments that I got talking about how much they hate PvP. Keys177 says, ARK has the absolute worst community ever. I have 3,000 hours in ARK, 50-50 PvP, PvE, and I met like 3 people that you could count as decent human beings. I'm not the foremost authority on the subject, but I have about 50 hours in PvP, and I'm not kidding you, without fail, every single time I logged in, my base would be completely wiped by a dude with a level 450 mana armor. I would have nothing for these people to take, and yet these people would just wipe me to swing their 2.5-inch dicks around. And Wildcard expects people to view PvP as the primary way to play the game? In what world is this acceptable gameplay? At least Rust has the decency to have dedicated wipe servers. PvP in ARK is just absolutely nonsensical to me. Just a bunch of absolute nonsense. I will not change my opinion, although feel free to argue with me in the comments section. From Hypnotic Bozo, my single most played game. I've spent 160 days total playing the game, and I love it. But for the love of the almighty goth mommies in the world, please fix the meshes. I've gotten jumped by hidden dinosaurs and lost all of my stuff by it clipping through the ground. This one hurts me to my very core. And here's a bit of a bonus round. Kitty16343 says, ARK is Minecraft for masochists. I would disagree. ARK at its core is not that difficult, it just takes time. From Big Sus B2T, Ghoul, you should get a BBL and make a twerk montage. You act like this hasn't already happened. Andrew McGoblin 4016, the Dino AIs are about as smart as a can of beans in a shoe. I personally would disagree, it's way dumber than that. And the last one, from Baron Was Taken, Ghoul is possibly the best ARK YouTuber to ever make ARK content. Changed my mind. Well, Baron, I will change your mind. This video.